Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Game Time. It's fall. We already did three activities and some fall activities, but there's more than three activities here at Springford. We got tons of activities. So we got a special guest with us today, Seth Jones, the leader of the whole music industry in Springford. This is awesome, right? You're the man. All right. So first off, congratulations, right? Got a new baby?
Yes, yeah, he's 9 days old.
That's unbelievable. 9 days. Is he sleeping in
Yeah,
yet?
no. No sleep.
No sleep. That's all right. That's all right. Well, does that include you too? So no sleep
Um,
for
I
you or?
I'm sleeping better than mom.
Yeah, got you.
But we're trying to figure it out and get
Got
him
you.
get him on a schedule.
All right, got you. All right. And I know you like your schedule, so this is probably driving you crazy. You can't set that the kid's gonna take that schedule that you love to
Yeah.
do, that type A
Yeah.
personality out the window. So that's all
Yeah, exactly. You can't really plan for this stuff, but having a kid in the middle of marching band season is not wise.
right. Gotcha. All right. So let's get the marching band. All right. So obviously it's a different season going on, but you know, with everything going on. But what do you, in a sense, how many kids do you have first off in the marching band, and what's like your average usually per year? I mean, I know it's growing every year. So
Yeah, this year, right now, we have about 140 kids in the marching band.
yeah,
And that is on the small side because we had a number of families opt out for the year
yeah,
due to COVID. Usually we're in like the 150 to 160 range.
yeah.
And so, we have a lot of kids that are doing it though, so that's really cool. But
That
that's
is,
about the size.
and that's a tough. I mean, where do you get? You talk about marching band. Where do you get your creativity? Not only to come up with a plan, but to try to install it with 100 plus kids. I mean, that's got to be absolutely insane to make sure that everybody's in sync. So where do you come up with your
Yeah.
ideas?
Well, we come up with ideas in two different ways. Number one is I really make use, especially this year. We have a lot of kids that we call our student leadership team that kind of buy into the idea of giving more service back to the band as they're older and through the band more. And so I've really relied on those students this year, especially with the social distancing aspect.
Yeah,
I'm not able to interact with the whole band at all the times. And so we kind of have created a system where our kids take ownership and do a lot of the things on their own, and including this year, like running parts of the rehearsals. And it's kind of just magnifying that effect across the band when you have a population of kids that are willing to kind of step up and do more for the band. So that helps us get a lot of things done. In terms of like creativity, we have a great staff of coaches that work with the band, and they all have an input into that. And then I know this entire season, summer, I've been basically like nonstop talking to other band directors all over the country. Like, what are you doing?
yeah,
Just because we're trying to like, we're all in this together and trying to figure out how to make it best for the kids, you know?
yeah. So I mean, do you just like a sport? Do you kind of adjust? Or do you ever notice it's got to be tough? Do you kind of assess maybe the season before what type of kids you have, and maybe
Oh,
do a
yeah,
program
absolutely.
based on them? Because or do you say this is my personality, this is the way like, so you
Yeah.
just said absolutely. So you do base it on potential what you're going to have next year.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely write and design to the strength of our student
Yeah.
population, and we always know that. We also kind of have some curricular goals that we want to achieve, and so we keep those in mind as well. We knew going into this year. I'm going to say before COVID because we started working on this show before COVID, but um, we knew that we this year particularly just had a lot of super talented kids across the board. So we wanted to find ways to feature those kids, in
Mhm.
the show. We also knew that uh, band more so maybe than other activities because I don't know. We also really have a personality that develops each year in the band, and it's really because of the senior class. I'm going to say the seniors really have like kind of a subconscious effect upon the status of the band,
Yeah.
and I have a longer theory about it, but I knew that this senior class is probably one of the strongest and best we've had in a long time. And they are very much like the roll up the sleeves, get things done types. So
Yeah.
we knew, like, when we were designing this year, that we could do something a little bit more difficult and a little bit more exciting because we knew that the personality of the band would suit that well. 2 years ago, we didn't have that in the band, candidly, and so we had to kind of strategize around that. But then we also have curricular goals, just things that we want to see kind of improve across the band, that we specifically write in to build those strengths into the
Yeah.
kids throughout the season. So it's kind of like a two-pronged approach, but that's what we do, you
Gotcha.
know.
Now, it's got to be obviously difficult because you can't away games, you can't do your
Right.
performances and things like that. So it's got to be, it's got to be harder where you can't, perform that consistently from week to week. But at least you do get a chance, to do that in front of your home crowd. Now, speaking of that, because you're at the football games, and Coach Brubaker always kind of mentions the band and the importance and the tie-in. And talk a little bit about that. I mean, how do you feel like on Friday nights, Friday Night Lights, that you guys, you have a huge section there, all to yourselves, and how does that feel, that atmosphere to be playing, basically like representing the school spirit, for the football team and just for Springford?
Yeah, I mean that's a huge, it's a huge responsibility that the band kind of gets, because we are like very seen and very noted in the community, and we are lucky that we have an administration and a football coach that really try to make everything integrated. Like it's not independent organizations, and I really appreciate that about Springford in particular, but. We were just talking about this exact point with the kids, here in COVID world, because, we went to the game last Friday night. It was awesome. It was a little bit different. But I told them the importance of the fact that everybody sees the band and knows that you're with the band. We all have the same uniforms on. We all
Yeah.
look the same. And I was telling the students, like, if we are not adhering to like the social distancing and the mandates that we are setting forth, everyone's going to know. And that's it's a huge responsibility to have. It's the same thing of like performing at Memorial Day. Everybody knows that who we are and where we're from. And so I kind of see that as like an awesome badge of honor to have, for the kids to be able to go to a football game on Friday night and say like,
Yeah.
we're representing something like way bigger than ourselves. And, we sometimes we're really good about it. Sometimes we're really bad about it. And we have to have those conversations, um, because it's all a learning experience. But that's kind of the goal, is just to create this thing, create this energy behind this community that we're all a part of, for a very brief time in our lives.
Yeah.
High school goes by so quickly,
Yes, it
and
does.
it's crazy. And so I think that's kind of that's what, like, where my head is at, and then we get to the game and the kids see the candy and the food and then they like kind of lose their minds. But we try and get that in there,
Yeah.
as best we can. And I think it's really special about Springford is just like you see like the ram head everywhere and everybody's got their
Correct.
Springford gear on
Yeah.
and blue and gold. I love that. Like
Yeah, no, I'm with
that's
you.
so
I
fun.
like, I like even like after the football game, the players come over,
Yeah.
acknowledge and you guys kind of do that, and even, the cheerleaders and that connection, like you said, during the one quarter, towards the end. So it is, but I've seen you. I go to the games. I've gone to games ever since I've worked, and so I've seen you in the middle of those pits. So this has got to be good preparation to be in the middle of that, where these kids are
Right.
just getting crazy for your baby. That's got to be great. You got to be like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like it's got to be good preparation. So I was going to ask you,
Yeah.
how do the kids come up? Do you kind of tell them the songs for like the week, or do you kind of just give them, carte blanche, like, hey, listen, like keep it respectful, but have some fun, let your personality out a little bit, but you can't play these, what do you do with that? Because it's pretty interesting, because
Yeah.
sometimes I've heard different songs the last couple of years.
Yeah, we've been trying to change it up. Um, we it kind of changes all the time, and music changes. The kids' musical tastes change,
Yeah.
and we've had to cycle out a lot of the old music that the band historically played for a variety of reasons, and trying to keep things up to date with what the kids like and what the kids enjoy. I also try and keep it short. I'm very mindful of like the PIAA rule book about like playing at the line of scrimmage and stuff
Yeah,
like that,
yeah,
because we're
yeah.
a big band.
Oh
And
yeah.
and I won't go into the story, but we like accidentally drew a flag on a football game once for the football team, and that was not pretty, and that was not intended, but it happened. So I like really try and keep everything super short, like recognizable melody, get her done.
It's a
And
good
then the kids,
story though.
it's a good story. It's a good story, but it wasn't at the time.
Yeah, okay. See, yeah, but it wasn't. That's okay. That's okay. That's all right. So
And
let me just kind of ask you this last question. So I let you go because I know you're busy. What's your goals, I guess, in a sense for the season and dealing with, as a whole, the band and then yourself individually?
yeah, so that's been really tough because the season has changed. Like we're on plan F at this point, like, um, but I think ever since the beginning of a season, like marching band generally ends in November, and by Thanksgiving, like myself and the staff, we're already kind of working on the next year. So like fast forward a year ago to Thanksgiving when we were starting to talk about this
Yeah.
show. We our basic goal is to give the kids an awesome experience through music where they can grow. I think like the marching band experience is amazing, just like any sport, because there's a beginning and an end, and there's a huge journey that the kids experience through that. And there's a lot of highs and there's a lot of lows. So that's it at the end of the day. Like the kids are never going to remember every drill move or every note that they
Yeah.
played, but they're going to remember like the emotional takeaway from that season. So
Hmm.
we always want that to be like huge. We always want that to be amazing. And then it's more about like, well, how do we get that done? And so, heading into this year, it was clear by the end of the spring that things were going to be really different. And we
Yeah.
didn't know how or what, but we knew that the kids needed to have a great experience. We knew that the kids needed to be able to come together and do something together because they were so, it was clear and obvious that the kids were living like these separate digital
Hmm.
lives, and we just knew that regardless of what was happening in the world, that we wanted the kids to come out of the 2020 season feeling like they had a really positive experience. Because for me, it was like, we need to have a band next year,
Yeah.
like it needs to continue. And so I've tried to keep my head in that as we kept having to revamp like what the actual season was going to look like. So we figured, we'll give the kids the best experience possible, give them an opportunity to be
Yeah.
musical, give them an opportunity to grow. And then we decided to take the approach this year of allowing the kids a lot more of the driver's seat and making decisions about the show and running some of the rehearsals because of all the social distancing and such.
Yeah.
And we figured at the very worst, by next year, we'll have a better informed student population about
Yeah.
how band happens. But then from that, we've been able to perform at football games. Like we had a football game
Yeah.
performance. We did not know that that was going to be a possibility. So
It is. That's a good thing. And you're sort of creating
yeah,
leaders, it sounds like, too. Like you said, for next
yeah.
year, this is a chance for those sophomores and juniors, like you said, that independence that they're seeing, it's given them, I think, a chance to be some leaders, too,
Yeah.
kind of
And
grow. I think that's a good thing.
yeah. And for me, like my personal goal, once I kind of figured out what was going to be happening generally this year, there's certain things that just kind of happen every year. And, when we get to like our band camp, when we come back in August, we're about like 15 days out from the first football game in a typical
Yeah.
year, because that first football game is always before the school year starts. And so we're kind of like under the wire to get something functional together for that first game. And because of like pack delaying the games and all of that, we actually had a lot of time. And for me, it was like, let's take some time and look at how we do things and make sure that we're doing them the right way, or
Yeah.
make sure we're doing them a way that is good for us. And I think that was hugely beneficial. We played with a different schedule, and we found that, we didn't actually rehearse as much during band camp this year, but the kids retained a lot more information
Hmm.
because everything was more focused. And so we thought like,
Yeah.
maybe that's a good thing,
Yeah.
that was kind of my personal goal, to figure out what is working for us and what isn't, based on the fact that we had this kind of gift of time that we've never really had before,
Well, you
you know?
mentioned before I let you go, I'm going to give you sort of maybe another personal goal. Get into Brew Baker's ear. You sort of mentioned, like one of your things was you kind of look in the timeline. Thanksgiving is one of those timelines. I would love for Springford, all these teams to bring back the Thanksgiving game.
Oh, yeah.
Play a little hear the band on 8 o'clock in the
Yeah.
morning, and then go off and to your families and have dinner would be phenomenal in the future.
Yeah.
Bring back the Thanksgiving Day games. I love that whole hoopla, the band, the parade on Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Except for that, I want to say like 2014. Was that the year there was below zero for the game?
Yeah, but who cares? That's okay. That's fine. But get in his ear, bring it back. I'm sure you get good weather. Most of the time you get good weather. But again, I thank you for joining us there, and I appreciate your time. All right, Seth Jones. Well, stay tuned because when we come back, we're going to talk to Tod Reagan and talk some tennis when we come back on Game Time. Hey, everybody. Thanks for holding on, and welcome back to Game Time. Good to talk to Seth Jones. Now we're going to have some love here. Love Fest.
Yes.
Coach Reagan, how are you today?
I'm doing great. I
haven't seen you for a while.
It feels like forever.
I actually taped him, but actually didn't tape it. So I did see him about 20 minutes ago.
We're trying to do it for the second time. It's okay.
Second time, take two. All right. I like the white there, McCaffrey. So a little bit like A Few Good Men. Maybe you saw this weekend?
Yeah, I did watch A Few Good Men this weekend, actually.
I knew it. So did I. That's unbelievable.
You can't change the channel. You see it on, you got to watch it. Love it.
I'm so with you. Oh, did you order the Code Red? I love it. I love it. In your fancy white suit. All right.
Yes.
So let's get to it. All right. With tennis, you opened up your season with a victory, and you just had senior day. Talk a little bit about the season.
Yeah, it feels like forever to get to this point, but the kids have worked so hard. The parents have worked so hard. Everybody's adjusting to the new way we do everything. The coaches obviously working very hard to make sure all the safety protocols are in place and executed each and every day. And now is the fun part where you get to kind of reap the rewards of putting in all the hard work of doing the optional workouts and then doing the real workouts and the 3-week preseason leading up to the match, and then we get Methacton right out of the gate. Methacton, such a perennial power at tennis. So yeah, we were super excited. We had to go to their place, and we actually came out with a 6-1 victory. So it was very exciting for us to have such a great start to our season, and then to have a really nice senior day yesterday, right before the rains came. So we got our match in against Pottsgrove. We won that 7-0. So that's fantastic.
2-0.
2-0, and then the rains came, and we kind of went under the new Phys Ed Center, which is really nice because it's super large and super not wet. So the kids got to eat all their food and do their pictures and the decorations. And then we said, you know what? It's 2020, baby. Let's go out in the rain and take those pictures because that's kind of like how things have been going here. You just got to make the most out of everything.
That's a good point. All right. So, one of the things leading up to that, you mentioned you already had 2 matches. Probably not concerned maybe about their conditioning, but what have the girls been doing to keep up that conditioning, while they weren't allowed to practice and things like that? So what did you hear through the grapevine, what they did?
Yeah, well, I mean, the great thing is that tennis really has the luxury of being a sport that is kind of conducive to social distancing in the first place. Now, obviously, once we got a couple kids on the court, then, you just got to be conscious of it. But a lot of our kids have been able to do, to be able to play with friends, to be able to play with family, to be able to do some clinics at their tennis club, to be able to work with some lessons because they can keep distance. There's just all sorts of new rules about who can pick up this ball, who can serve at that ball. So, but everybody follows the guidelines. Guidelines were adopted by USTA, and then PIAA used the same ones. Then they pass those down. And then obviously our league adopts the same guidelines for safety and health that, the PIAA released, and, all the, how do you coordinate tennis in this current situation? So really they've done a great job. I haven't been concerned about their fitness or readiness to compete from the very beginning. They came ready to go. A couple people had a little bit of rust, but they were able to shake it off real quick. And actually the longer, the delayed start to matches actually helped us out too. And it really gave us, and probably a lot of the other teams, an advantage of just being able to really have enough time to bond and get things right as a team and get everybody ready.
All right. So in talking about that, do these girls, I'm sure at this point, a lot of these girls have faced each other outside of school. They really know each other, not just at spring. They're playing against, like you said, Methacton, the Perk Valleys and things like that. Do you find that, they really know each other well? I mean, how do you, and where do you step in with that in helping coach them? Like, hey, listen, in scouting and knowing what to do, what do you do with that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, with tennis, we all play on the same day. At least your league, right? I mean, there's no sending an advanced scout out to see what O&J has this year. I mean, we know as coaches some of the girls that are on their team, but like you said, a lot of times it's our own girls that have faced off outside of school tennis, outside of high school tennis against a kid, and they're kind of giving us the scouting report. Hey, I saw her in July. We had a tournament, and she likes to do this. She's really good at this, but maybe you can try and take advantage of that. We really use a lot of the knowledge that the kids bring, especially those top players. They see each other a lot more outside of the season, so we really can kind of share that, and we have a lot of great players that are putting in a lot of time in the off season, so they have a lot of experience.
So does that make them sort of like you're saying, does that sort of make them like co-coaches in a sense? Like you said, your seniors who have played against some of these girls that are older, they're telling those sophomores and freshmen, if they're playing those girls, hey, I watched them play last week. I saw them 2 weeks. This is how they play. They like to come to the net. They like to stay back and just wail on the ball. Do you find that with like the team?
Yeah, and a lot of times, when you're playing outside, maybe they remember their name, or I think I played her, but then once they see, they're like, okay, all right. So right before the match, we're kind of all like, oh, that is the girl you thought it was. All right, let's go through that. And the older kids too, they're like, we played her last year. Oh yeah, she was the one that played, she played, Sally over there, and she was the one that had a great backhand, and she, so it's just kind of like that whirlwind when you get to a match sometime of trying to remember all the things that you know about the kids that you have there. Now, once you get a couple matches under and you kind of see the names in the newspaper and you say, oh, okay, we know who that girl is, and then, it makes it a little bit easier, but you're never kind of really sure where everybody's at until you see them have a couple matches.
Gotcha. Now, speaking of matches, I mean, you probably – you have, in talking to you earlier, 31 tennis players on the team. Do you feel that intensity, during, I know like in the past, you guys would basically have match offs to see who's going to play that week. Do you feel that intensity through that 31 competitively?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of kids that have a lot of desire to do well. We have a lot of kids that have a lot of skill. We told them in the very beginning, hey, listen, we see 16, 17, 18 kids that could be varsity players. I mean, we really believe that if we had 3 injuries, we feel like we can replace them because we got kids that are just on that top of that JV and they're ready to go. They're ready to play varsity. So, I mean, that's a luxury we have at Springford right now. We have a lot of players that are very good. The good thing about this year is we had 3 weeks to kind of get ready for our first match against Methacton. Normally we have a week. So we did a lot of that, playing everybody off, making sure everybody's in the right spot before we start getting it. Now all our energy is kind of focused against how can we beat the other team? What are we going to do to beat the other team? We're not too busy about shaking our things up now. But sometimes it happens. Somebody goes, they get in a little rut, and then we have to have another challenge match. Like maybe in the season, if somebody's losing and the team right behind them is really doing great, then we have to do it again. We have to have them play off to make sure we're still in the right order. But no, having the 3 weeks really helped us out because we were able to play a lot of matches and figure out where everybody needs to be. And like I said, man, if we get somebody an injury or something, we feel ready to go with the kids that are right at the top of that JV ladder, ready to plug them right in.
Gotcha. All right. So how do you, in a sense, just real quick, how do you keep them motivated, knowing that, again, sometimes the scores don't always tell it, but you beat Methacton, you beat, you said Pottstown, right?
Pottsgrove yesterday.
Pottsgrove. So you probably have a little bit of a target on your back, knowing that Springford, it's probably words out. Springford's pretty good, going 6-1 your first match, 6-0 yesterday. It's probably word out. So how do you kind of keep them motivated, each and every day?
I think honestly, it doesn't seem to be that big of an issue because our season we had so much practice, and that kind of replaced those matches. So now they're just so hungry for those matches. Like I said, normally we have 1 week and then we just play matches. We had 3 weeks of practice. They're ready to go. They're not like, oh, I'll take this match easy. They want to go out there and compete because they know they lost so many matches in those weeks that we didn't have. But now we're making them up. We're adding when we can to try and give them as many chances. But I'm not. Our coaching staff isn't worried about getting them hyped up for a match. These girls want to go out and they want to compete. So
awesome. Right.
We don't need to fire them up.
Gotcha. All right. So talking about competing, what's your goals competitively? You feel as a team, and my last question for you individually.
Well, I mean, honestly, our team goal this year: number one, safety. Number two, finish the season. Play all our matches. Like. Your expectation changes a little bit in this environment, but no, number one, keep everybody safe. Number two, play all our matches, because that means that they got the experience of the team and they had the fun and they did all that. And then you get to number three, win a pack championship. Like that's ultimately on a normal year, that would be, hey, we want to go out and we want to compete. And we want to win the pack championship. That's an expectation now. We've won a couple in the last couple years, and now that's just the expectation that we have in our program. Our kids want it. Our coaches want it. And we think we can deliver a good team that certainly has a chance to do that each and every year. But now when you start looking at it, you start seeing, hey, our team's pretty good. Then once we get through with that, we say, hey, we've never won a round at districts. District tennis for team is tough down here in District 1 when you're fighting with the mainline schools and you're fighting with Unionville was the league champion last year. They have like 6 or 7 tennis clubs in their school district. We have 0. We don't have a tennis club. We have 2 country clubs that don't have tennis court. Like, we don't have the kind of that inner workings of the mainline schools and whatever. So our kids have to travel when they want to go to a club. They got to go farther. They have to put in more of a commitment. And then what they do is they come out to us, and then we put it all together and really just showcase all the work that they've put in to try and do as much as we can. So, I mean, we always want to do a little bit better than we've done before. So winning a Pac-10 championship is the start, and then trying to win a round or 2 at districts is our next goal.
All right, beautiful. I would like to thank you for your commitment. And, I know those girls were dying to get out there. So, I appreciate your time here, Coach Reagan.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
See you out there, baby.
All right.
I'm ready to play.
No, you're not allowed to play.
All right, so we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Coach Kissel. Next on Game Time, so go grab a snack. We'll be right back. And you know what? I came home for the second part, so Coach Kissel, you get me at home.
All right, sounds good. Looks
all right,
comfy.
So Coach, yeah, that's right. So Coach Kissel, we could see, you could see right in his background there, it says Springford Soccer. So you're advertising really well there. All right, so talk about right now. You've got 5 games in. You beat your perennial, usually your nuisance, that Boyertown. But how do you feel that the young season's going so far?
I think it's going really well. Obviously we're unsure of a season what happened this year, and right now we're 3-1-1. Guys are playing really well. We've had a couple, setbacks in a game, but had a draw against Mithacton, lost against Upper Perk, but we've been playing really well, and each day we're getting better. So that's all we can ask right now.
And think about that. I mean, don't you, I guess as a coach, don't you want them, if you're going to lose in a sense, and you really haven't lost that much 3-1-1, but if you do lose, you want them to be hot later on the season. Sure. When the playoffs start. That's what you want. So, talk about that. Do you feel like in that direction that the kids are making that kind of progress looking towards playoffs?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, winning's fun, winning's easy, but when you lose, that's when you try to, you kind of look and see what can be fixed, right? What needs to be adjusted. So, I think that loss against Upper Perk and the draw against Mithacton helped us to, resolve some issues that we were having in the midfield. Just kind of reinforce some defensive things we've been talking about. So, yeah, for sure. Having losses never fun, but we learn from them, and definitely would rather have them earlier than later as we get into the postseason. So for sure. All
right, and talk about your makeup. I talked to you before. You lost a lot of seniors in this, from last year. A good crop of seniors, but obviously you got some young talent. Talk about that young talent, and do you feel that it's because of the systems where they're brought up into that allows them to step in as easily as they do?
Yeah, I mean, we got a great group of guys this season. Some guys returning starters from last year's team, are still on the team this year. 3 of them were starting last year, again, back with us. Other seniors have stepped up tremendously for us, on the team. Can't name them all. There's so many to name that have helped us out. But it's just been the team has really come together. It's easy to say, oh, we lost all of this, talent and goal scorers and you can say that, but the guys have rebounded and, they've been a part of these teams and have been so close to winning packs and, winning. We were Liberty champion 3 years in a row. So these guys have been there 3 years, so they know what it's like and they want to win. They are hungry to win a postseason title. For sure.
And speaking of hunger, I mean, they got to be hungry, usually you start in August, starting almost in October here, late September for you. How did you, what were some of the things the kids did or told you they did to keep in shape? Because we know endurance and conditioning is huge, especially with soccer, because you're basically running miles per game. What did the kids do during that time independently on their own?
Yeah, I mean, commitment wise, it's been huge from the guys. I mean, they, right now, if we were in a regular season, we'd be just about done the pack, getting ready for districts another week. And now we still have 6 games to play before possibly. We haven't heard yet on where districts is going to be or when, but, and we were doing, once we were given the green light by the district, doing stuff in, late July, early August. So they've been, training for, 2 months before they even had an opponent. So, the commitment from them. And, we put out, gave them some documents, some workouts to do. Coach Gio sits in the fitness center was sending them some body work stuff to do. So, and we were allowed to get into the fitness center as well. So that was also helpful, but yeah, they've been working hard since end of July and they've all wanted to play. And now that they're out there, I can tell they're having fun and it's just great to see them on the field.
Yeah. So talking about that, talking about endurance and keeping in shape, I'm going to talk to you personally here because I know you got 3 girls at home. You got a baby infant. So how do you stay awake during these games, Coach Kissel?
I stay awake during the games. I fall asleep at home. That's the secret.
You got to get one of these seniors to babysit. You got to get these kids to babysit or take shifts at your house.
Yeah. Now, my wife does a tremendous amount at the house. Can't thank her enough. And, once season's over, we'll have to take her somewhere nice. But
yeah, that's a good thing.
It's tough for sure, trying to manage everything and, teaching online virtually and managing that with coaching. It's tough, but, I'm doing my best to make it all work.
Yeah, and it's going to work. And, my last question is this for you before I let you go. So talking about at the end of the season, obviously, like you said, it's still 6 games. Weather's changed. It's probably a little cooler than you're used to playing. But what's your expectations beyond? Obviously, it's probably to win the pack. But even beyond that, what's your expectations for the rest of the year?
I mean, yeah, obviously, the guys want to win the pack. I want to win the pack. We've been so close. But, just that we're getting better every day is kind of something we tell the team, that we're always improving, always striving to be better. We kind of have the saying of the relentless pursuit of perfection, something we say. We got that one, team slogan behind me there. So that's obviously a goal. If you win District 1, you're in the state semifinal right away with the way the setup is. So it's anybody's game at this point, so I think we have as much talent as anybody. We have as much experience as anybody. And if we can put it all together, I think this team's got a really bright future possibilities where they can go. So I'm proud of them. It's been a great season so far. They've got on the field. Their parents are able to watch them. It's exciting. That made this all work. And it's from the top down, from administration, coaching, trainers, custodian staff, everybody's helped. So it's been great.
That's great. All right. Well, I appreciate your time and good luck. Hopefully you do win the pack and you go beyond that there, Coach Kissel. Thanks a lot.
We got PV tonight, so let's beat them.
That's right. Beat the orange and the white. Well, good luck to you. Thanks again there, Coach.